Feeling stuck in heartbreak, stress, or setback? Have you ever wondered how to get back up when life knocks you down? What's harder for you, getting back up after failure or staying strong during stress? Welcome to Session and Secrets. My guest today is Dr. Leigh Belhumeur, author of Mastering Resilience, Transforming into Your Purpose.
Abuse, neglect, and family dysfunction.
Commitment you must keep is your commitment to yourself.
Through and efforting, and it has to be hard, and
dreaming of what what is life going to look like for you and the best outcome that you could have in life.
Handled that situation, or I wish I'd handled it better, or, I realize I'm really stuck in this.
Welcome, Dr. Lorry.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to be with you today, Luisa.
Tell me about yourself.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a wife, mother, and new grandmother. As of this week, I have our first grandson. I'm a licensed psychologist and CEO of a children's mental health services organization here in Orange County.
And what inspired you to write this wonderful book?
Well, as it says in the title, Mastering Resilience, I have my own journey of resilience, my own roadmap. And I realized earlier in my career as a psychologist that since I wanted to help others in my care heal and go through, a process of adapting to the adversity, childhood adversity, trauma, that I needed to do that myself.
Yes, you have dedicated your life to helping people rise above life's challenges. Children, teens, adults. So how do you define resilience?
Well, resilience is the ability to adapt through adversity. Some people say bounce back. It's really not bouncing back. It's adapting through the adversity in healthy ways and coming out on the other side of it stronger and more resilient than ever.
Do you think that's something we're born with, or is it something that we can work on and something that we can shape?
Well, I think it's a myth that we're born with it. Sometimes people say children, they're resilient, they'll get over it. And really, it's something that when we face adversity, we have an opportunity to become resilient, to build the resilience muscle. And there are strategies and ways to do that, throughout the lifetime.
And Dr. Lorry, sometimes we go through adversity or struggles. It's off, at least for me, right? We're human beings, even though I'm a mental health professional, but I'm still a human. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we go into sadness, right? Different emotions. And something that spoke to me, in your book, I'm going to read it. I have a bunch of tabs here, but it says, "Why is this happening to me? I felt very poor me." Little did I know that behind this question lay hundreds of unsolved mysteries within my past. I recognized I had many wounds, but their effects on my present state of mind or being were entirely invisible to me. I spent so much time reliving past adversities, let alone current ones.
Well, that was early on in one of my first I've had therapy over the years. And when I realized that I was still kind of stuck reliving, some of the past adversity that I'd experienced. And so I think I want to mention also that there's something that really defined the kind of adversity. It gives us a name that we can refer to it as, and that's adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. And there are 10 specific kinds of adverse childhood experiences in the categories of abuse, neglect, and family dysfunction. And so sometime during my career as a psychologist, I was exposed to that terminology, and it really oh my gosh, that gives it a name. And I had 8 out of 10. So I knew that there were things in my past that needed to be healed. And as I mentioned a little earlier, as needing to be healed so that I could be a more effective therapist. And so I was in therapy, and my therapist said, "Lorry, you wear your adversity like trophies in a trophy case. And that like really stunned me. Like, what did she mean by that? And what it was is it was such a subtle way of staying in as a victim and looking at the trophy case and saying, oh, look what I've been through and I'm on the other side. And at the same time, again, looking at it. So I realized that, again, I had an obligation to really get to the other side of those, to adapt through them, to become stronger on the other side. And so I thought that was really quite enlightening for my therapist to say that at the time.
In that moment.
Yeah.
Is that when you realize like there's more healing that needs to be done?
Exactly. Well, obviously I was in therapy, and so I knew there was some healing, but it was at that point really, and I didn't know about ACEs and that things were called ACEs at the time, but I knew that I'd experienced a tremendous amount of trauma as a child. And I was already a psychologist. And so I knew at that point, oh, I've got a ways to go.
Yeah. And I think that the statistic is like 60% of the population, right, has at least one ACEs.
That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And those of us who go into the helping profession, especially as therapists, we actually have more than most.
Yes.
You know, the majority of us have 4 or more out of 10. So we're in good company.
Yes. And like 25% of the population has more than 4.
Right. So, something, a little bit less than that. But in the population of children with mental health issues, it's, as high as 35% have 4 or more.
Right. And also when you were speaking and you said, I had an obligation. And so there's another quote in your book, and it says, the biggest commitment you must keep is your commitment to yourself.
That's exactly right. And the commitment to self is that when we want to be the best version of ourselves, when we know that there's something like more, and when we realize, oh, I don't really like the way that I handled that situation, or I wish I'd handled it better, or, I realize I'm really stuck in this, that the obligation is to ourselves to step into that best version of ourselves, to realize what great qualities that we have, just because we're born with particular, qualities, but it's also that who we get to be on the other side of adversity, who we get to be as we're in the process and journey of mastering resilience, transforming into your purpose, realizing that on the other side of that adversity is a better version of who I am.
Yes. I love that, right? Like it's sort of like you're the author of your life, and you can design it, you can do something to make it, to get to your purpose, right?
That's a great way. Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. It is. You're the author of your destiny.
Yes, exactly. And what are the biggest myths of resilience?
I think the biggest one is that we're born with resilience, and that's one of them. And as we develop and go along, we have opportunities to become resilient. We have the opportunity to become resilient, and we have the opportunity to build that resilience muscle along the way, and to adapt through it. I think that the other myth about resilience is that it means like pushing through and efforting, and it has to be hard. And, I think that's also a myth. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be.
Yeah. Or like you have to suck it up, right?
Exactly. That's right. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. That's what people might refer to as resilience. And it's not that at all.
Yeah. And what I love about the book, that is like a roadmap, right? It gives you steps. And so what are the steps for mastering resilience?
Well, it's a recipe in the book. There are several ingredients. I like that metaphor. I used to bake cakes as a young girl, and so I just use that as a metaphor. And there are certain ingredients. I think in the first ingredient is really understanding your big why. And some people call it the vision. It's like really the thing that, it's who we get to be when we're, have, the life that we really dream of. Is this success is like the only option. And then what I realized through this process is that some people can't, like when they're in a state of adversity and they're just really hurting, they can't think of a brighter future. They can't think of that. And so really it starts with that commitment, the commitment to yourself, the commitment to healing. And so the first thing that would happen would be compassion. And that's one of the steps in the roadmap. And I realize that sometimes that gets to be first, because when we learn compassion for ourselves, when we, those of us who've been through trauma, it's like we're our biggest critic. And so when that happens and we're constantly looping these negative things that we're telling ourselves about ourselves, the first thing, and it may seem difficult, but it's actually quite simple, is to interrupt that criticism of ourselves, because that compassion for oneself is the very foundation of healing. Because then once we're compassionate with ourselves, that means being kinder to ourselves, saying nice things to ourselves. If we say, oh, I'm constant failure, it's like, oh, well, I remember a time when I was successful. So it's not 100% true 100% of the time that I'm a failure. I have some successes. And so it's replacing those thoughts that replace the negative thoughts we're having. So it really starts with that compassion and connection with ourselves. And I like to simplify it. It is a full ingredient, kind of step by step, but to remember, at least initially, CPR. And CPR, as you know, is like reviving life. And so some of us who've had those traumatic experiences, it sometimes feels like life is over. And so that C in CPR is connection. And that first part of connection is connecting to ourselves, connecting to that beautiful, wonderful, valuable person that we were born. If you think about a baby, my grandson just born, at 34 weeks, he's so tiny, and you look at him and he's just so beautiful and he's so pure, and that we're all born that way. And so to really get in touch with that connection of who we were when we were born, that there was nothing wrong with us. The world hadn't, come in and done, really anything to us at that time to develop thoughts of negativity. So to make that connection with ourselves, and it means surrounding ourselves with people who care about us, who love us unconditionally without restraint, who just love who we are, and knowing who those people are to build sort of a protective shield around us and again, cheer us on, And so that connection is that C of reviving. And then once that's there, and that compassion for self and connecting with yourself, making that commitment to yourself, then it's really considering the possibilities. And that's when you think about dreaming and what's ahead, as if success is the only option. And what's that big why that's there? Like, why am I here? What was the purpose of all of those things that happened to me? There is a reason. And when we're ready, we can start to look at those reasons. But that P is to consider the possibilities. What is the world? What does success look like, or what does the future look like as if success is the only option? And who do I get to be in that state? And then the R, and this is really, really, really important in terms of reviving and bringing life into, is reframing. So oftentimes we think about the bad things that happen to us, and they are bad. There's no question about it. They're bad. They hurt us. They're harmful. They're destructive. And there are those things. And when we're ready, we can reframe. So the R is reframing. It's looking at, not forgetting the past, not doing anything other than looking more future. And when we're ready, saying, what has this experience taught me? who have I become as a result of that adversity? I know that I'm here on this planet now to break the cycle of trauma and abuse of children in this generation. And I know that that's my purpose. I didn't always know that that was my purpose. I knew that I was here to care for people, and I really felt that early on. But it's something that, like, who have we become in the face of that, through that adversity? You hear about people who own or are founders of nonprofits feeding the homeless. They came out of homelessness, and that's, their purpose now. And you can think of lots and lots of other examples of purpose being on the other side of that adversity. So it's reframing it. So CPR, making those connections, having compassion for oneself. P is the possibilities, looking at the future as if success is the only option, and reframing what happened to us in a way that's, it could be, sometimes we're telling ourselves, this is real quick, telling ourselves what's wrong with you, and then transforming that into what happened to you, and then what's strong in you. So instead of what's wrong with me, it's what's strong in me that has been developed as a result of adapting through that adversity.
Yes, I love that. And that can be, there's a quote in your book, and it says, my purpose is to be cycle breaker for the next generation, right? So even if I'm not going to become the CEO of a nonprofit, right. But maybe in my family, right? Mm-hmm. How is this ending in this generation?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it is different. It's whatever is for that, it's whatever it is individually and uniquely for that person. Yes. Absolutely.
And then you were talking about that. Consider your purpose in the world, right? And so you're talking about really, I think, dreaming of what the best, what is life going to look like for you, and the best outcome that you could have in life. Right?
And it's really that transformation through the process of moving through and getting on the other side of that adversity.
Yeah, because you always talk. You talk a lot about mindset shift, right?
Yes,
change.
That is a big part of it along the way, and so mindset shift is really that reframing. And so in every circumstance, the mindset shift means, early on in that therapy session, I could have gone and just believed that I'm a victim. These horrible things happen to me, and I'm stuck, at this particular place. But my mindset shift could be, there's a reason those things happened. And or even what I was talking about earlier, like I'm a failure, to, I have success. I am successful. That's a really easy mindset shift of shifting our thinking around why things happen and who we are.
And tell me about your other ingredient is commitment. Tell me about that.
Right. So commitment is, you talked before, like big why. Why is the reason for being, and all of those things, and the best version of ourselves. And commitment is why now, with a capital NOW. Why now? What is going on in my set of circumstances right now, where I'm going to use that set of circumstances to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm committed to my own healing. I'm committed to go through this process. And that commitment, that why now, changes over time. And so, early on, before I had kids, I'm like, I got to heal because I'm having children. I don't want to have the same kind of familial situation. And then when my kids were teenagers, it's like, oh, I want my daughters to have self-esteem in a way that I didn't before. So I've got an obligation, a commitment. Why now? Because of that. And it's all part of the breaking the cycle, but it's a commitment to oneself, to one's healing in that moment. And that commitment is the motivation of, why am I going to stay on course here? Because I'm motivated to heal. I'm motivated to do something different. That's the commitment. And so It's the thing that if we keep it top of mind, we'll make course corrections to get back on track when we sort of, get off track.
And the next would be like clarity of self, right?
Yes.
Why is that? Why is it important? You have a question, or yes, a question. It said, who you think you are versus who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it important to know yourself?
Well, who you think you are, I kind of alluded to it earlier. Who we think we are, who you think you are once you go through adversity is all those negative things that you tell yourself about yourself. That's who you think you are, because those are the thoughts that are going through your mind. Who you actually are, your true self, are those incredible, unique qualities that make you, you. In the book, we talk about, I'm going to use the metaphor of the butterfly. So in the caterpillar in the cocoon, it has all of the DNA elements of the butterfly. There's nothing that changes inside that cocoon, and all of the elements become that butterfly. And so like that, we have all of the DNA and all of the amazing, amazing things that make us strong and beautiful and valuable and unique inside of us. So who we really are those things that make you uniquely you. And that is what I mean by who you think you are versus who you really are.
Are there like questions that we can ask ourselves to clarify that?
I think so, because sometimes when we are going through this adversity and the journey and we're really hard on ourselves, sometimes the questions can be going to someone who we know cares about us, a mentor, a parent, a sibling, a cousin, a friend, and say, can you tell me how you see me? And so that question it's not, if we're in that place where we're really being hard on ourselves, sometimes we have to look outside of ourselves to get the real true picture of who we are. And so it's that. And if one is so inclined to say, who does God say I am? That's another question. So that you can begin the process of shifting those thoughts into something that's true about who you are as a person.
Right. So resort to spirituality if that's meaningful, or resort to people that care for you, right? And love you.
And I referred to it earlier also to say, if someone's really in that loop of saying all the negative things, about themselves, you can ask the question, is this true 100% of the time? Is this 100% true 100% of the time? And if the answer is no, then what's the truth?
Right.
What is true?
And I mean, your next step, you say, is be aware, acknowledge the truth, take action. You say, be aware, be present, be aware of your thoughts, your feelings, posture, and surroundings. Acknowledge the truth about yourself, and take action. Action consistent with your true identity.
That's exactly right. So that is a strategy for cognitive consistency. So cognitive consistency means that our thoughts, our behaviors, and our emotions are consistent with our thoughts. Our thoughts drive our emotions. Emotions sometimes drive behavior. So it's a strategy. The triple A's is a strategy to be aware in that moment. So it could be aware that I'm telling myself whatever the thing, I'm a failure. I'm just using that as an example because it's very common for people to feel that and to say that to themselves. So it's to be aware in that moment. And the quicker, the faster you get back on track and say and acknowledge who you are. I am strong. I am successful. I am compassionate. When you can replace that, and that's a mindset shift. And if the quicker you do it, the faster you're going to retrain those, rewire your brain to remember those true things. And then the third thing is to take action in the direction that's consistent with that, what we call true self. So be aware of what I'm telling myself about myself, replace those thoughts with and acknowledge who I am, intrinsically valuable, those good qualities, maybe I am statements about myself. Feel it with the emotion of that also, instead of like, I am. No, it's not like that. It's like, I am powerful, and to like use the posture and acknowledge those positive qualities that you have on yourself, then take action in that in that experience of those I am statements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you also talked about like the posture. I was
Yeah.
practicing.
Yeah. Yeah. It
last
really
night.
is. It really is. And you know, I know there's YouTube videos about it
Yeah.
also, that if you're like powerful, you can stand in a powerful posture,
Yes.
pose. If you say, this is from Amy Cuddy in a YouTube video. You can put a pencil in your mouth and it forces your face to kind of smile a little bit. And so it can change your state of being just because you change the state of your body.
Yes.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
Mhm.
And then you also talked about the both approach.
Yes, that's the secret sauce.
Yes.
So what that means is the bold opportunity to heal. And this is where the reframing comes in. So it's to recognize when we're in that place of feeling like, feeling like a victim, feeling like I'm stuck, like all the things you described in the beginning. When you're in that place and you say, okay, this is happening for a reason. This is my bold opportunity to heal. And so that's where the reframing comes in, like we just talked about. But the both approach is just realizing right away that the experience that you're having in that moment, that's maybe not the best version of yourself, is a bold opportunity to heal. The both approach. Then you go into the reframing. There's also a personal one, because sometimes what can happen is that sometimes we use the word triggered, sometimes we use the word out of proportion. It's like having an experience, either visceral or otherwise, where this feels like really out of proportion to what's happening right now. And there's some stories in the book, about that, just like, and it feels out of proportion. And what it's to realize that that's also a bold opportunity to heal. It gives us the opportunity not to relive the exact same experience, but to say, oh, this feels very familiar. It's an opportunity to heal. It's a bold opportunity to heal. And so it allows the opportunity to, to put it in perspective and say, this reminds me of that. And then I can, if it comes up so much as really strong, it might mean that we need to get some professional help. This is not, this process in the book is not a substitute for, mental health intervention at all. But if we do realize that our feelings are out of proportion, or our situation or behavior is out of line, it gives us an opportunity to go back and heal some of those wounds from the past.
Yes, or to like like I said, like have a roadmap, right?
Yes.
Like a guide of how to get out of that hole or get unstuck. And I love this part where it says cognitive reframing, which we could call it challenging negative thoughts, right?
Exactly. Reframing it. Yeah.
Right. Reframing those thoughts has the power to help us make sense of complicated, discordant, or difficult situations. We owe it to ourselves and the children we serve to act.
Yes.
And I love that. And so for those who feel stuck in pain or trauma, where's the best place? Where can they start?
I think that, as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, sometimes we can't start with the big why. We can't start with thinking about what does success look like. And the starting point is really that compassion. It's the compassion for selves. And what that means in reality is catch yourself criticizing yourself and then replace it with something that's more compassionate, more kind, and being kind to yourself. That's really the best place to start. Because when we realize how hard we are, we know we're hard on ourselves. When we get to that point where it's happening in the moment, the quicker we get out of that sort of rut in our brain, the easier it's going to be to heal and get through that. So if you imagine like you're on a healing isn't a trajectory that goes like straight up like that. It's a series of, course corrections along the way. And if you can imagine that you're thinking something negative about yourself and you continue, it's a little bit longer to get back up on that trajectory. So what our goal would be is to catch it as fast as we can. And that's where the AAAs come in as well. Like catch it as fast as we can and then replace it with those true thoughts about who you are individually as a person.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lorry, for all this information and your words of wisdom. And I hope you join us back.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you.
Dr. Lorry reminded us that being resilient isn't about being unshakable. It's about learning how to grow through with what go through. Whether you're navigating heartbreak, stress, or big life transitions, remember, your story is not defined by what breaks you, but by how you rise. Grab a copy of her book, Mastering Resilience, and start your healing. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, or leave a comment down below.